The man who loves walking will walk further than the man who loves the destination. This is the same thing for learning, since a love of learning is a strength we all have. If you want to be more healthy, wealthy, and wise, or just a modern-day Renaissance man overall, it is important to learn how to actualize this strength of love of learning. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video in the Strength of Character series. If you're new here, my name is Brandon. I'm really interested in exploring what it means to be healthy in today's society, since it seems like so many people are struggling with that. I'm also a personal trainer and I have a love for communication studies and philosophy and just overall self-improvement. So I'm revisiting the 6 virtues of a great life that the Greek philosophers first kind of explored. And so we are still on the virtue of wisdom, and with that, one of the character strengths that falls under that is love of learning. So let's run it. I spoke too soon. One more thing. If you want to find out your top character strengths and where I'm getting all this positive psychology research from, head over to the VIA Institute on Character. I'll have a website linked down in the description or popping up in one of the corners right now. This is their kind of handbook about all of the character strengths and how we can explore each one of them. And with love of learning, how do we know what it is? How can we know how to kind of spark it and ignite it and use it every day in life? And then how do we know when we're overusing it and underusing? So that all being said, now let's run it. So love of learning is kind of self-explanatory. It's just a passion or having a deep desire to learn about anything and everything. This is similar to curiosity that I covered a few weeks ago, but while curiosity was just kind of about new information and experiences, love of learning is more so about having a desire for a deep understanding and a broad connection between various topics of all this new information and experiences you have in the world. It's about learning for the sake of learning. Getting a strong understanding of new information or new experiences is exciting too. And in fact, you probably have just this overall sense of every new experience is a learning opportunity, or any sort of mistake, problem, topic in life you view as a learning experience to gain more information about the world around you and have this broader sense of competency in your life. And it would be surprising if you were to say that you're enrolled in the school of life, just because anything fascinates you and you also want to have just a deep connection to everything in life. The VIA research also backs this up and says that a healthy love of learning strength says it is closely connected to a sense of competency and fulfillment in life, healthy, enjoyable aging, and just overall a deep growth mindset. And I also think this is really important because if you're also interested in entrepreneurship, you always hear about these really successful entrepreneurs saying that love of learning, and somehow it's just saying like learning new skills, is one of the most important things you can do to become more successful.
Right? And then it's not like you have a finite capacity to learn. The more you learn, the better you get at learning, right? And then the more lines and synergies you find between different skill sets and opportunities,
the more dangerous you become.
So if you look at Jay-Z in the beginning, like he probably had a natural proclivity for rhyming and beat or rhythm, whatever, right? So that was his first like kind of skill. He probably practiced that a little bit because he was into it. And then he learned, writing lyrics, and it's like, okay, so that's another
producing,
skill, right? And exactly. Then he learned producing, and then he learned marketing, and then he learned
performing on stages or something.
Yes, and then he learned how to sign other people to his, how to start a label, and then he started learning. And so with each of these skills, it wasn't 1 + 1, it was like 1 + 1 + 1 = 10. Like if someone's good at math, they can learn accounting or bookkeeping first. It's like, okay, that's a level 1 skill. Then you learn accounting, okay, now you're making more. And then you learn how insurance works, and you're like, oh, okay, now you can start to see this person evolve. And then you learn how tax and tax efficiencies work, and you're like, oh. And then you learn how to package and sell businesses and negotiate those deals with private equity and things like that. All of a sudden, that's a CFO. That's somebody who's making multiple $1 million a year, but it's the same basic few skills that stack on top of each other and get disproportionate returns on all the prior skills with each new additional skill.
Now I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to connect this back to the quote at the beginning. Don't just think about this as like, I want to learn new skills to be successful, but have a deep desire to always be learning new skills in order to be successful over the long term. I think that's what a lot of these entrepreneurs are saying, that it's like, you should just have a fascination about the way the world works and how it connects to so many different aspects of life. And finding that kind of way of which so many things connect each other is how you can create really cool creative solutions and provide cool products, cool services to others, and create a really successful business with. So to spark your love of learning, think about these. What areas of life do you find the most or least interesting to learn about? This could be science, people, general hands-on skills, philosophy, spirituality, pop culture, history, you name it. What areas could you also combine and learn about both in a connected way? For example, how about history and philosophy and then learn about Stoicism and Greek civilization? Next up, what ways of learning are most or least engaging for you? This could be reading, hands-on prototyping, in social settings by yourself or one-on-one from instructors or mentors. How does having broader, deeper knowledge of the world change your interactions or relationships with others. For something to do in real life to challenge this strength of love of learning, you can go with someone really close with you in life. This could be a friend, family member, or partner, and go take a new cooking class, pick up a new hobby you're both interested in, read a book together, collect something new, and always just try and develop this sort of weekly activity about learning something new together. If you want to see love of learning in action, I highly recommend watching the movie Dead Poet Society, about kind of how language and having a deeper understanding of language makes life so much better. Has Robin Williams in it too, one of my favorite actors. Or watching any YouTube videos with Rajiv Surendra, very fascinating individual. And reading the books 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson and Sapiens by Harari. Both great books, really interesting reads. Now, just like any other strength, we can use it too much or too little, and both can lead to unpleasant interaction with others and just an unbalanced life overall. When underusing love of learning, you don't just stop learning cold turkey, you tend to kind of segment your life. And so you may think learning about sports and cooking is really interesting, but then you may stop yourself from learning or being interested in, say, the famous painter John Singer Sargent or early childhood psychology. You may think those are just complete wastes of time. Overall, when we underuse love of learning, it could come from a lack of curiosity of other topics, or it could be coming from some sort of like negative judgment we have of those topics that kind of stops us from even reaching out, being interested in them. It's important to mention that one of the most common ways we underuse love of learning is in romantic relationships. When we may be interested about anything and anything during the honeymoon phase, but when the honeymoon phase is over, we stop asking questions and kind of just general interest, deeper interest in the other person. This unfortunately leads to so many people taking your partner for granted and kind of almost like a slight resentment for the other person when friction starts to kind of boil up a little bit when you start to have these smaller, unpleasant interactions over time. So if you want to kind of get over this and re-spark your love of learning for the others, pick up that new skill or new hobby, take a new class together, and kind of pick up a new weekly activity that you can go both learn something together and talk about it once you're done and see how just interested in other things you are, and then hopefully that will transfer over in being interested in the other person a little bit more. Overusing love of learning can make us come across as like a know-it-all, so we may seem arrogant or disinterested in others, or somehow it seems like other people are always saying we're just giving speeches to everyone about anything and everything for how much we know. Now, to be fair, overusing love of learning still means you are enthusiastic about knowledge, which is great, but oversharing that knowledge with others can be either somewhat like showing off, or it can be overwhelming and just a little bit too much for some people at times. Now, this makes sense, right? And if this sounds familiar to you and you want to break that cycle of always oversharing and kind of being seen as the know-it-all, then try to reframe and start your conversations with another person off like, hey, I learned a lot about this new really cool thing and I find it really interesting. Do you want to learn something cool too? And if they say yes, then feel free to share. But if they say no, you need to respect that. Now, if they also say yes and they start to like they come across as a little disinterested, you still need to challenge yourself and your own awareness of others to know when to kind of rein it back in, because sometimes people can say yes even when they don't want to. And so this can also be reframed as a challenge for yourself and a new way to challenge your love of learning, in a way to learn more about human psychology and how fascinating it is for us to say yes even when we don't want to, just to be polite. So try to challenge your own awareness to see when it is that people truly want to learn more, or if they just said yes to be polite, and know when to kind of rein it back in order to not overstep or overwhelm other people. When you can master that, I promise you more people will feel more comfortable and more interested in talking to you about anything. For a great balance of love of learning, look to behaviors for continual learning rather than just outcomes of learning, whether it be degrees, certifications, good test grades, you name it. Always try to think about how you can become a philosopher rather than just trying to get a philosophy degree. Now, to finish up, I will say that it is probably the single greatest factor of our humanity that we can become such smart creatures. Having a sense of wonder and awe of the world around us and a desire to learn more about it can make for such a fulfilling life. So to wrap it up, I will leave you with one last quote, so please stop whatever you're doing in the background and listen to what my man Steven has to say.
Ever since the dawn of civilization, people have craved for an understanding of the underlying order of the world. There ought to be something very special about the boundary conditions of the universe. And what can be more special than that there is no boundary? There should be no boundary to human endeavor. We are all different. However bad life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. While there is life, there is hope.
All right, that's all we got for Love of Learning. I hope you learned something from this video. And as always, there will be more strengths to come. I think I'm forgetting on which strength this is. I want to say this is like 4 out of 24. This is 4 or 5 out of 24 right now. But more to come. We have one more strength in the virtue of wisdom. And then we can move on to the virtue of courage next. Again, take the free survey if you're interested in what your top strengths are. Leave a comment down below what you found most interesting. And if you want to help me out the most and help grow my channel the most, just watch more of my videos, and you can have them go in the background if you want. It just helps tell YouTube that, like, hey, this is a channel people are actively watching. We'll start sharing it more with other people. So if you've noticed, I'm not trying to do any fancy thumbnails just because I feel like I can create a lot of drive-by viewers where they click on it, but then they click out like 30 seconds into the video. So I really just want to create a community of people that are just really interested in this and want to stick around for the full video and learn the most from it. So if you enjoyed this, share it with a friend that you think may also be interested in this sort of stuff and finding out what is a strong character, what is my strong character looking like, and how we can find a full life and a full fulfilling life, or eudaimonia, as the Greeks call it. So hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more. Leave a comment down below. I'll reply to all y'all. And other than that, you'll catch me in the next one.